I should have known something was wrong when Megan started being nice to me. After 6 months of living together, she'd suddenly transformed from someone who labeled her yogurt to someone who brought me coffee in the morning. The change coincided perfectly with my bonus hitting my bank account, a fact I discovered she knew when she confronted me that Tuesday evening. "So," she said, sliding onto the couch next to me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, "I saw the deposit notification on your phone this morning. $11,000. That's amazing." My stomach dropped. I'd left my phone on the kitchen counter while showering, forgetting that my banking notifications showed previews on the lock screen. "That's my year-end bonus," I said carefully. "Our year-end bonus," she corrected, her smile growing wider. "Remember our agreement? Everything 50-50? My name is Jessica, and I'm a 28-year-old marketing director at a tech startup. When I'd moved to Seattle a year ago, finding affordable housing had been a nightmare. Megan's Craigslist ad for a roommate seemed like a godsend: beautiful apartment, reasonable rent, and she seemed normal during our interview. We'd agreed to split all household expenses 50-50, rent, utilities, groceries, cleaning supplies, standard roommate stuff. But apparently, Megan had a very different interpretation of our agreement. "Megan, we agreed to split expenses, not income. That's my bonus from my job." Her face darkened. "Don't play dumb, Jessica. We're roommates. We share everything. That's what we agreed to." "No," I said firmly, "we agreed to split the cost of living together, not our paychecks. That's insane." She pulled out her phone and showed me a photo of our handwritten roommate agreement. "See? Right here. All finances split 50-50ths. That includes your bonus." I looked at the photo. The agreement said all household finances split 50-50ths. She'd conveniently cropped out the word household in her photo. "Nice try," I said, getting up to retrieve the original document from my room. "But the actual agreement says household finances, as in, expenses related to the apartment, not our personal income." Her mask finally slipped completely. "I don't care what it says. We've been living as equals for 6 months. I've been subsidizing your lifestyle while you've been hiding money from me." "Subsidizing my lifestyle?" I was incredulous. "Megan, I pay exactly half of everything. How is that subsidizing?" "You make more than me," she shouted. "I'm a barista making minimum wage while you're pulling in corporate money. It's only fair that we equalize things. If you wanted income-based splitting, you should have mentioned that when we signed the lease. You can't retroactively change our agreement because you saw my bonus." $5,500, she said coldly. "That's my half. I expect it by Friday, or I'll take action." "What kind of action?" I asked, though I was already mentally calculating how quickly I could find a new place. "You'll see," she said ominously, then stormed off to her room. I immediately called my friend Lisa, who was a paralegal. "She can't actually do anything, right? Legally? No, your bonus is yours. But Jess, if she's this unhinged about money, you need to be careful, document everything, and maybe look for a new place." I took Lisa's advice and started apartment hunting that night. I also took photos of all my belongings, backed up our text conversations, and made copies of all our agreements and lease documents. Call it paranoia, but Megan's transformation from annoying roommate to financial predator had me on edge. Wednesday morning, I left for work early, hoping to avoid another confrontation. Megan was already gone. She usually started her barista shift at 5 a.m. I spent the day trying to focus on work while fielding texts from her that grew increasingly aggressive. "I've been thinking about this all night. It's not just the bonus. You owe me back pay for the income disparity. I calculated it. With your salary versus mine over 6 months, you owe me $8,000 on top of the bonus split. This is about fairness, Jessica. Don't be greedy." "I know you're reading these. Ignoring me won't make this go away." I screenshot everything and forwarded it to Lisa, who advised me to not engage. "Let her dig her own hole," she said. "The more she texts, the more evidence you have of her harassment." At lunch, I took a break from apartment hunting to grab coffee. By pure coincidence, or maybe not, Megan was working the counter at the coffee shop. "Jessica," she called out loudly, causing other customers to turn. "Have you thought about my proposal?" "This isn't the place, Megan," I said quietly. "Oh, I think it is," she said, her voice carrying across the shop. "Everyone should know what kind of person you are, making 6 figures while your roommate struggles, refusing to share your windfall. Some feminist you are." Her manager appeared. "Megan, is there a problem?" "No problem," she said sweetly, "just explaining to my roommate here about income inequality." I left without ordering, my face burning, but I made sure to note the time and date, more documentation for the harassment file I was building. When I got home that evening at 6:30, my key wouldn't work, the lock had been changed. I stood there for a moment, processing what had happened, then I called Lisa. She changed the locks? Lisa's voice was sharp. That's illegal, call the police, now, I'll meet you there. While waiting for the police, I knocked on my neighbor Tom's door. He was a retired teacher who'd always been friendly. Tom, did you see Megan today? She changed the locks and I can't get in. His face darkened. I saw her around noon with someone who looked like a locksmith. I thought it was strange since she was supposed to be at work. She said you'd lost your key and asked her to handle it. Could you tell that to the police when they arrive? She's locked me out illegally. Of course, this is outrageous. Want to wait in my apartment? The police arrived within 20 minutes, followed closely by Lisa. I explained the situation, showing them my lease, my ID with the address, and the text messages from Megan demanding money. Ma'am, your roommate cannot legally change the locks without your consent, Officer Martinez said. Do you have her phone number? We need to contact her to resolve this. I called Megan and put her on speaker. What? Megan, this is Officer Martinez with Seattle PD. You need to return to the apartment immediately and provide Ms. Jessica with access to her legal residence. There was a long pause. I don't have to do anything. She hasn't paid her fair share. Ma'am, that's a civil matter. Illegally evicting someone is a criminal matter. Return to the apartment now, or we'll have the locks changed back and you'll be charged with unlawful eviction. This is ridiculous, Megan screeched. She owes me money. Ma'am, return to the apartment now. She hung up. Officer Martinez sighed. We'll give her 30 minutes. If she doesn't show, we're calling a locksmith and she'll be responsible for the cost plus potential criminal charges. 25 minutes later, Megan arrived, her face twisted with rage. She unlocked the door with shaking hands while muttering under her breath about police states and protecting the rich. I entered my apartment to find chaos. My belongings had been rifled through. My laptop was missing from my desk. Several pieces of jewelry were gone from my dresser. Officer, I said, my voice shaking, she's stolen my things. I took what you owe me, Megan shouted. It's payment for. Ma'am, you have the right to remain silent, Officer Martinez began. The next hour was a blur. Police took photos of the ransacked apartment. I identified missing items. Megan was arrested for theft and unlawful eviction. As they led her away in handcuffs, she screamed about inequality and corporate greed. Lisa helped me file an emergency restraining order that night. We also discovered something interesting when we reviewed the lease. Megan had violated multiple clauses including the one about illegal activity on the premises. I had grounds for immediate termination of her tenancy. The next morning, I met with the building manager, Harold, who was horrified by what had happened. I've had difficult tenants before, he said, but changing locks and stealing property? That's a new one. Don't worry, Ms. Jessica, we'll handle this properly. By that evening, Megan's possessions were legally removed from the apartment and placed in storage. The locks were changed again, this time legitimately. I finally had my home back, though I installed a security system that very night. The legal aftermath was swift. Megan was charged with theft, unlawful eviction, and harassment. My laptop and jewelry were recovered from her room. She hadn't even tried to hide them, apparently believing she was entitled to them. During her arraignment, the full extent of her delusion became clear. She told the judge she was starting a revolution against income inequality and that I was a symbol of corporate greed stealing from the working class. The judge was unmoved. Ms. Megan, regardless of your political views, you cannot steal from your roommate or illegally evict them. The defendant's income has no bearing on your criminal actions. She was sentenced to probation and ordered to pay restitution. She also lost her job at the coffee shop. Turns out harassing customers and getting arrested for theft doesn't look good for a barista. I never got the restitution money. Last I heard, Megan had moved back to her parents' house in Kansas, still posting on social media about the injustice of her arrest and how I'd destroyed her life over money. The irony wasn't lost on me. She'd destroyed her own life over money that wasn't even hers. I kept the apartment for another 2 months while looking for a new place. Despite the locks being changed and the security system, I couldn't shake the feeling of violation. I ended up moving to a 1-bedroom apartment in a building with better security and much stricter tenant screening. My $11,000 bonus? I used it exactly as planned, paid off some credit card debt, put money in savings, and yes, I splurged on a nice vacation, a vacation I desperately needed after the Megan ordeal. The experience taught me valuable lessons about roommates and boundaries. I'd been so focused on finding affordable housing that I'd ignored red flags during the interview process. Megan's comments about rich tech people gentrifying Seattle, her insistence that everything should be equal without defining what that meant, her barely concealed resentment when she learned what I did for a living. Now, when people ask why I pay more to live alone, I tell them about Megan, about how she saw my bonus notification and decided she was entitled to half, about how she changed the locks and stole my belongings, about how she genuinely believed that being roommates meant sharing income, not just expenses. Most people are shocked. She actually thought you should split your paycheck? She thought we should equalize our incomes, I explain. In her mind, me making more money while living in the same apartment was oppression. The truth is, I would have been happy to help Megan if she'd ever asked. If she'd said, "Hey, I'm struggling this month, could I pay you back for utilities later?" I would have said yes. If she'd approached me about adjusting our split based on income from the beginning, we could have had that conversation. But she didn't ask, she demanded. She saw my bonus and decided it was hers. She turned a simple roommate arrangement into class warfare, with me as the enemy. 6 months later, I ran into Tom, my old neighbor, at a farmer's market. "Jessica, how are you? I heard Megan tried to rent the apartment again, but Harold told her to pound sand." "She tried to come back?" "Oh yes, showed up last month claiming she'd been illegally evicted and demanding her apartment back. Harold had the police report ready. She left pretty quickly after that." We laughed, but it was tinged with sadness. Megan had had a good situation, nice apartment, reasonable rent, a roommate who paid on time and kept to herself. She threw it all away because she couldn't stand the idea that I earned more than her. That $11,000 bonus changed my life, but not in the way Megan intended. It taught me the importance of financial privacy. It showed me how quickly envy can turn to entitlement. It reinforced that boundaries aren't just about saying no, they're about protecting yourself from people who think your success is their opportunity. Now I live alone in my one-bedroom apartment. It costs more, but the peace of mind is worth every penny. No one rifles through my mail. No one monitors my banking notifications. No one demands half of my achievements. And if I ever get another bonus, well, that's between me, my bank account, and the vacation I'll be planning. Because that's the thing about bonuses, they're called bonuses for a reason. They're extra, they're earned, and they're certainly not for roommates who think proximity equals profit sharing. If you're watching this and living with roommates, learn from my experience. Be clear about financial boundaries from day one. Document everything. And if someone starts eyeing your success with entitlement instead of encouragement, run. Because sometimes the most expensive roommate is the one who costs you nothing until they decide they deserve everything. Thank you for watching my story. Protect your boundaries, document everything, and remember, your bonus is yours, no matter what your roommate thinks about income inequality.